Okay, this is our last work of art by Bernini until the end of next week. We're going to come back to him because I told you he is the Italian Baroque. But before I get ahead of myself, let's look at this. What is going on in this one? Okay, this is Bernini's Ecstasy of St. Teresa, and it's still in its original location, which is the Cornaro Chapel in the church Santa Maria della Vittoria in the city of Rome. So let's look at how we read this. Bernini's our artist. Ecstasy of St. Teresa is this large artwork. This whole thing we're looking at was designed by Bernini. Miss Cortez, I thought you said he was a sculptor. He was a preferred sculptor, but he was also an architect, a set designer, and that's what's being played out here. His architecture, his set designing, and the sculpture. The place, the setting is the Cornaro Chapel. It's called that because it was owned by the Cornaro family. The Cornaro family purchased this space inside of the church Santa Maria della Vittoria in the city of Rome. Got it? Now, what we're looking at here is highlighting a miraculous event in which Saint Teresa experienced a vision from heaven. What? What's going on? Let me set this up for you. So, Saint Teresa is this figure here, Saint Teresa of Avila. She was born in 1515 and was a Spanish nun. 1515, but that's like less than 200 years before this was made. Yes, so interesting. During the Counter Reformation, we see an influx of, what's the word? Canonization of saints. Canonization, what is that? Canonization means made saintly. So canonize a saint is for the Pope to officially recognize what this person has experienced, maybe the miracles they performed, has outlined them as a saint. And what we see in the Counter-Reformation is a lot more people have been canonized as saints, including Saint Teresa. Now, her experiences had been documented in her journals. She was a Spanish nun who described several visions, and this one is what we're experiencing here. So this vision is when Saint Teresa said she was praying in her nun cell, her room, when the ceiling burst open and this blinding golden light from heaven came down, and then she was lifted up out of her room up towards that golden light on a cloud. Halfway between earth and heaven, she was met by an angel, and this angel greeted her with a flaming arrow. This arrow was on fire, and smiling down at her, this beautiful angel smashed her chest with this arrow, piercing her over and over and over. And she felt this heat from that flaming arrow, which she described as God's love, pulsating through every single fingertip, every toe. And this experience is what we're seeing here. It's called an ecstasy. A lot of times in sacred descriptions of miracles or visions, these types of visions can be described as ecstasies. So we have the ecstasy of Saint Teresa. We have the angel. We even have the arrow. We have the golden rays of light. This is a moment, a Baroque moment. It's a Baroque moment. It's happening right here in front of us. If you don't believe me, let me just zoom in and you can see the angel about to pierce her with that arrow, right? And then this fantastic light that we see that's shedding down on the two figures. That light is coming from a hidden window. Right behind this architectural slab, which Bernini designed, there is a real window that lets in the real light from outside. But when you stand here, you don't see it. If you don't believe me, here, this is another photo standing directly in front, about 5'4", height. You see that light? You see the light coming down, but you don't see the origin of the light. And this appears to be that golden light of heaven. To emphasize, I like this image because there's no flash taking away the light. Bernini installed these brass rods painted in gold to mimic the golden light of heaven. If we look at her clothing, look at the attention to texture. This is all one block of marble, but he gives us a sense of clouds and the thick nun habit. And then look at the difference in her folding of clothes with the angels, very like soft, watery ripples of this very fine, very transparent, very angelic fabric. It's stunning, and it seems to be floating in air. Check it out, you guys. There's no base. How is this possible? Bernini, he's a stage designer. He knows about drama. He installed it into the wall. So rather than sitting on a base, it's installed into the back of the wall. So it looks like it's floating, even when you're standing right in front of it. It appears as if she is really rising on this cloud, being met by that golden light and that angel. So, characteristics of the Baroque moment. Diagonal lines. Yeah. She's at a diagonal, right? Where's my image? This one. She's at a diagonal. This way. And the angel's at a diagonal, and that arrow's at a diagonal. So we can understand that in the instability of a diagonal, that piercing and that floating and falling of Saint Teresa. There's even more to this. So when we pull out, we see on either side, let me disappear. What's going on either side? People? Yeah. Here, I'm going to pass through this one. We talked about that. People. Not just people. These are members of the Cornaro family. Bernini did portraits of several key male members of the family and installed them on either side of the chapel. They're installed into these spaces that look like theater boxes. And that fabric that's hanging down the front of the railing, it's actually colored rock. Oh, I love rock. I love different types of rock. And because I love rock, I'll just tell you that this kind, oh, I don't have my detail. It's Sicilian jasper. And this is creating this wave of color and fabric. And then look at their gestures. What are they doing on either side? It looks like they're sitting in these boxes and they're talking to each other and they're looking at Saint Teresa. They're part of this moment with us. They're reacting to this vision just as we're reacting. They're having theological discussions about this saint and they're going, you see what this, what? We are all together in this audience watching Saint Teresa have this vision. To add to that sense of we are sharing a space, check out the false perspective that Bernini creates behind those figures. It's as if we see the room continue beyond the frame of the theater box. But you know what he really did? It's a flat piece of marble. It's a flat piece of marble that he's carved into these exaggerated perspective lines to give your eye the view of it receding into space. I know, Bernini's a genius. What can I say? Now, when this was presented to the public, yes, it has the drama. It has all of that. Great, wonderful. But some people criticized Bernini for her physical expression. Mouth open and some people said, listen, I know it's called an ecstasy, but I don't think you should show a nun in the middle of what looks like an orgasm. Miss Cortez, I'm just telling you what they talked about. Bernini said, listen, we cannot understand this vision she had. We didn't see it. But what we can do is try to make it as relative to our own lives as possible. And this pulsing love of this arrow filling her with the love of God, Bernini said, this carnal expression of love is our closest understanding to what she's experiencing. I'm not trying to be, crass or pornographic here. This is a sacred vision, and we're going to be experiencing it all together in this space. All right, Bernini. Okay. We'll see Bernini again at the end of next week. At the end of this week.